knew from the moment that I decided to share my story that it would be the greatest story I'd ever tell.
And he said, now I don't feel bad releasing these pictures and videos of you.
And I never imagined that there were thousands of other people who had a very similar story.
I met somebody who I thought was a boy around my own age in a chat room, and he messaged me, and he immediately began to groom me.
Something's happened, somebody hacked in, and they've changed your profile picture to a nude photo of you.
And my husband had posted pictures of me, unknowing to me.
That is when I found the websites of me naked all over the internet.
I thought I was alone. I thought that this only happened to me.
About a dozen nude photos of me up on a porn site.
On the X-Hamster account, there were 20,544 people who viewed my pictures.
He took videos of me without my knowledge, because I didn't know. I'm bent over.
And the video was taken behind my back.
Other people had watched this and enjoyed it.
All of the similarities and heartache and pain is so eerily the same.
It felt like almost being raped.
What this turned it into was just something so shameful and dirty.
The shame feels like the same. The silence, the violation, the anger, the frustration.
How do you know that's you in the video? I'm like, because I have a tattoo on my butt.
In many ways, it feels like that monster murdered me.
I'm going to make sure you never, ever have a normal life ever again.
I get a text message. And I play the video, and it's all of these naked photos and videos that he'd strung together of me with a message that said, "This is going out on social media." He had been taking photos of me while I was asleep, naked. And that moment, everything changed. I stood there holding my cell phone, looking at this video, completely stunned, paralyzed, in utter disbelief. What was being held over me was not only am I going to share these naked photos and videos, but I'm doing this to silence you and destroy you. Silence and destroy me? These were the words out of the mouth of a man who I loved. I trusted him. I moved out of the country to start my life with him. I remember when I met him. It was spring 1989 in Detroit, Michigan. There was just something about him that made me feel so special. It didn't last long, maybe 5 months. I was young and it was time for me to go after my dreams. I left for a job in Dayton, Ohio, and what turned out to be the beginning of a 30-year career in broadcast journalism. From Dayton, I moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I fell in love with the city and sealed a deal anchoring and reporting the news. I found my new roots in the city, eventually getting married, and before I knew it, I'd given birth to an incredible son. As the months and years passed, I pivoted my career to becoming an author, an entrepreneur, speaker, business coach, and most importantly, the best mom I could be. But my marriage, it had begun to fade apart, and after 20 years, my husband and I decided to divorce. It wasn't complicated, just necessary. I can still remember the day I heard his voice again, that ex-boyfriend from Detroit. He'd found me on the internet. That relationship began, and it was hot and heavy. It was fast. And by late summer, I'd booked a flight to Jamaica, and our renewed romance was in full swing. It felt real. It felt right. And so I did it. I ran away to Runaway Bay, Jamaica. We rented a condo together on the north shore of the island, overlooking the Caribbean Sea. The sounds of those steel drums, the priceless gift of nature, and those beautiful sunsets. It was paradise, an opportunity to live my new dreams, love, lifestyle, and work from my laptop. And with my son settled in college, I felt it was safe to pursue this new life. Our romance, that was dreamy too. You know those early days of falling in love where all seems so perfect? But people always tell you to watch out for those red flags, not to be blind to them. Well, they were there at first, and I see them now. I would frequently leave the island for work, and if I didn't answer the phone or text back quickly enough, it would send him into a rage. He would just have these violent outbursts that, and not against me, but against other people. Guy crossing in front of the street. Waiter didn't bring the food fast enough. Just different things that I was like, whoa, like what's going on? And it was very compulsive. Just my cell phone would blow up. I would get 40 calls in a day. Where are you? What are you doing? Extremely controlling. All of this scared me. So I told him it was over and I moved back to the States. Well, at least I thought it was over. It turns out it was only just the beginning. 12:30, 1:30 in the morning on New Year's morning, January 1st, 2017, I get a phone call. And he was just screaming and cussing and fussing. And then all I remember hearing was, I will stab you in your heart and shoot you in your head. And then when he said, and if I don't do it, I'll find somebody who will. That was it. I didn't want to leave the house. I was afraid. I was so afraid. There's several steps before you even push send. In my case, you had to set the intent to take these photos and videos. You had to set the intent to save them. You had to set the intent that when you couldn't get your way or when you felt rejected, that you would then threaten to do it and then do it. All of that was intent. And all of that means that this was not some fleeting moment.
There's an extent of pathology within that person that blurs that and makes it not even matter. So yes, there's an awareness of right and wrong, and the obsession, the desire, the need to move toward and act aggressively is something that overrides that.
Here's a person who was so angry and so revenge or just filled with these, and this was going on like constantly, my phone, and here I'm thinking, is it out there? Who's seen this? Where is it going? The other thing that he did though, was he took photos that he had taken of me and I'm smiling or standing there, whatever, and he wrote lines, all kinds of lies and other terrible things about me to put on top of the things that he shot. So this is somebody who took some production time, because these were multiple videos. He paid somebody to do it because he didn't know how to do it. So he paid somebody else to put all of this stuff together. I felt like if someone saw this and didn't know me, they'd have no history. They'd have no background. They'd see this woman with her pussy splayed out on this video with me laying there and think of me as some trashy hoe or like that. Oh. And it continued for months and months. And the more that I rejected him, the more it bred his obsession. And the more and besides that would also come the, oh baby, I'm sorry. I really love you. I didn't mean to do that. I just want you to come back. Can't you see how much I love you? That's not love. None of that is love. Not any of it is love. It's sickness. It's complete sickness. And it went on for months until he put up a website and put it all on there. And you could Google my name and find it. And then he called my ex-husband and told him to look at it. And he called business colleagues and other friends, and they immediately called me, but now I knew that it was out. And not only was it out, but he picked up the phone and called them and told them to look at it.
If I'm a man and I'm in a romantic relationship with a woman and I somehow am experiencing her as a threat, psychologically, maybe I'm afraid she's going to leave. I'm afraid that she's going to have too much power and overcome me in a certain space, I mean psychologically, then I'm going to exercise violence against her.
That is vindictive and wrong and evil. The other part that was really tough for me was court. So much effort. I can't see. I just want to be able to talk. That was extremely good. To go to court all of those times to try to just get this judge to understand that I needed language from you that would say, that would force GoDaddy and Google to take this website down.
What is the specific language that you're requesting?
That any private sexual images of Derek Chisholm that are posted on any third-party website be taken down or be removed. So GoDaddy, there's a bunch of different servers, and whenever you reach out to them directly, they request an order with some type of language so that they can justify the removal of the images.
That's all I asked for. She openly admitted that's not case law that she's familiar with.
Exactly.
I'm simply finding that my dismissal of the temporary injunction for protection was erroneous in light of the cases cited by Ms. Meyer.
So today I had the opportunity to show her the case law. Supreme Court of Florida has ruled upon these issues. There is jurisdiction for someone out of state. The Supreme Court of Florida has held in several cases, I cited 3 of them today, that you must protect the people of Florida whenever there's harassment from out-of-state individuals, which is exactly what we have here. The fact that he's out of country should be treated no differently than if he was in Georgia or in California or in another state. So the case law is clear on this point with technology and how it impacts law today.
And there was no way to ask for any civil or criminal punishment because he was in another country. I was seeking a PFA, hoping that would do something, but he continued to harass me even while I had the PFAs. He broke all the temporaries. I just wanted the judge to give me language because in this day and age, those companies say, in order for us to remove the content, we just need the judge to say, took her 11 months. Now imagine if your naked body was on the internet for the world to see while you wait helpless for 11 months. I literally just came from court, and I am no closer to getting this so-called court order that I've been seeking from the judge in the last 6 months. And working with you, in 2 days, you had my website shut down.
I think that the federal organizations in my country, in the United States, in Europe, throughout Europe, are unable to move fast enough in order to be able to respond to the crime as it's happening, and I don't really honestly think that jurisdictions really believe that it is important enough, or that it is dangerous enough, or that it is serious enough.
I was able to use a DMCA takedown, Digital Millennial Copyright Act, to eventually get it taken down, but even that took several months. And then all along, I was just hoping nobody Googled me, kept looking. You go to bed every night thinking, who's seeing me this way? When is it gonna happen? When am I gonna get a bunch of phone calls? And all I've ever done is help to build people and build things. No matter what I've done, I've always done it with the intention to pour into other people's lives. And to have someone say that they would do that was probably more hurtful than the photos and the videos. Because it was like, how could you do this to me? And I poured into your life. I fucking packed up and moved to Jamaica. And with the intent to help you transform your life. So to do that was an even bigger degree of violation for me. And I remember, I just remember feeling like
if people see me this way, if Pittsburgh sees me this way, if my clients, if my friends and my family, what would they think of me? And I didn't do it. I didn't pose for them. I mean, none of this was that, but it was this sense of stripping away of this person who has considered herself to be loving and strong, and this person who lives with expression and freedom, and it just left me flat on my back. And, so humiliated. And yet I have to say that it was because that it was like the lowest point of my life, that I understand when people are there, what that feels like. I honestly had never been there before. I honestly had never felt this victimized. And now I know that. And now, ironically, I get to add that to this fabric of my life that, well, I've always been able to say I'm strong and resilient and focused and determined. I also know what it means to be weak and vulnerable.
I knew in my heart something was wrong because she sort of went under cover into, she was very quiet for about 3 or 4 months. Mm-hmm. I knew something was going on.
Yeah, we just talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
We did just talk about this.
And yet, I had a more pressing issue at hand.
My son, who I feared the most would be impacted by this. Because, what son wants to see his mother this way? What son wants to know that some man is threatening her and harming her and not being able to do anything about it? And that child did not one time get mad, want to retaliate. He simply said to me, "Mom, come on. You are the strongest person that I know. You're gonna get through this." And this was me telling him this just like I'm crying right now. Like I could barely even say something to him. And then he said, "Come on, you can do this. And I don't know what you need to do, but I know you know how because you taught me that." And he said, and besides, Mom, he chose the wrong woman to mess with. And that changed it for me. It was as if I just grew wings. It was like I could breathe. It was like, you're right. You're right. Thank you for reminding me. I'd forgotten. I'd simply forgotten.
But it didn't take me long to remember or figure out what to do next.
Former Channel 11 News anchor Darian Chisholm is a victim not only of cyberbullying, but of revenge porn.
From that point on, my life was divided into what had happened before and what lay ahead. I vowed that I would reclaim my dignity, end my silence, use my story and platform to become a voice for the unheard. Then came the national and international press and media.
Darian has become a leading advocate in victims' rights with regards to this revenge porn.
TEDx Talks.
Our cyber civil rights are at stake. Here in the United States, we need to have clear, tough enforcement. We need to demand the accountability and responsiveness from online companies. We need to promote social responsibilities for posting, sharing, and texting. And we need to restore dignity to victims.
To talk with the other women that are going to be there, many victims and survivors are going to be there.
Speeches to students, parents, lawmakers, and just about anyone who would listen and care. 50 Shades of Silence was born. My website was flooded with followers who wanted to tell me their own stories and were desperate for help.
I took my notebook and I wrote letters to everyone who mattered in my life. And I said goodbye to them all, because I couldn't deal with it anymore. And then I sat on my bathroom floor with a bottle of wine and every pill imaginable in my cabinet. And I was leaving. I didn't want to be here anymore. I couldn't handle it. And I talked to a girlfriend in New Jersey. And plus, speaking to you, when you called me that day and I reached out to you and told you what was going on, you gave me the extra strength that I needed.
But the backlash also followed. Internet trolls with their misogynist comments, victim blamers and shamers, all filled with hate, gender bias, intolerance, and ignorance. Fuel for the fire of revenge porn perpetrators. But you know, I can't indulge in this mindset. We have to do better. We can do better. I sought out experts in the field who are advocating for victims, working for a federal bill that would criminalize revenge porn and related acts of cyber harassment.
So the federal bill would make it a crime, a federal offense, to disclose somebody's intimate imagery without their consent. And that would be true if you disclosed it by email, via mail, via websites. It wouldn't matter what the format was, so long it was something that was not just within a state itself. So one of the reasons why we think the federal bill is so important is because it does not distinguish between images that were consensually given in the first instance or images that were stolen or surreptitiously obtained. What we're trying to do with this bill is to emphasize the non-consensual aspect of the disclosure. That's really what makes the difference between a perfectly legal, perfectly freedom of speech protected disclosure and something that is illegal and harmful. There's nothing wrong with naked pictures. There's nothing wrong with putting out pictures of yourself. What we're trying to capture is the fact that sexual activity without consent is not lawful sexual activity, and that includes exposing a person's photo, an intimate photo, to the public without their consent. So as far as the bill is concerned, there is no distinction between an image that was captured without a person's knowledge, or an image that was voluntarily captured, or an image that was voluntarily captured and shared with a boyfriend or another trusted person. All of them are going to be treated the same as long as they were not intended for the public and that person knew that they were not intended for the public and disclosed them anyway.
It's so good to meet you.
And I began traveling the country to meet and interview other victims who shared this experience.
Come on in. He took that video without my knowledge, for one, and he had it for 10 years. For 10 years.
Waiting for a moment to try and publicly shame and destroy you.
Yes. Like, my dreams are now crushed. I could never be Miss New York, or I could never run for another pageant, or I could never do all the things that I've ever wanted to do because of this.
But Nathalie found and used her voice on the steps of City Hall in New York, advocating for victims. Many years ago, I interviewed another young woman whose horrific story also made headlines and is likely the first to warn about internet dangers.
Who'd think I'd be sitting here on the couch with you?
It's crazy.
As part of my story that is certainly not as tragic as yours, but that I'm now bringing light to a very awful situation. And in 2004, I interviewed you, and look at where we are now.
Our stories have collided.
Alicia had been abducted by a man who she'd met in a chat room on the internet.
And next thing I know, I was in a car. And this man was squeezing on my hand so tightly that I thought it was broken. And he was barking commands at me. Be good, be quiet, the trunk's cleaned out for you.
Unfortunately, though, it didn't stop there. It started there.
Right, over the next 4 days, I was raped and beaten and tortured in that basement.
It all came crashing down. I knew how I was rescued, but I didn't know what that really meant, what he had shared.
And I can remember crawling out from underneath his bed, dragging that cold, heavy chain behind me, trying to cover myself because I had no clothing on, and putting my hands up at the same time, and staring into the barrel of a gun, and thinking, this is the moment I'm going to die. But then he turned around and I saw FBI on the back of his jacket. And all these agents rushed in, cut the chain from around my neck, set me free, and gave me a second chance at life.
Alicia was lucky to get out alive. She is living proof of the dangers that lie within the internet. Perhaps it is no place for the innocent or naive, but for those who survive and have the courage to move forward, their bravery and their stories embolden me.
Fortunately, as a coach, I've been able to use some of the tools that I know to move through this emotionally. And I started asking myself, who do I need to become now to get through this? And as I watched more people so helpless, I knew that I just needed to use my voice, my story, and my platform. And
what a great question. Who do I need to become to get through this? You sort of picture that stronger, most empowered version of yourself, and that's how you make it happen.
Found a way to crawl out and turn it around and change it and help other people in the process. That's the beauty
Right.
of it.
She has a platform to help somebody else because of who she is and the strength that she carries. A lot of people may not have been able to handle this. A lot of suicides and different stuff like that. People, they get depressed. And I think that she is just the perfect person to campaign this.
I'm smiling most days now. I'm actually in a very good place that allows me to breathe life into other people. And I get to use what happened to me as the catalyst for who I've become now. And she's a much stronger, more happier, more determined, more brave, more bold woman. And it was for such a time as this that has me where I am now.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for being here for our March Against Revenge Porn. Welcome to Pittsburgh.
What do we want? Legislation. Where do we want it? Across the nation. 5, 6, 7, 8. End abuse and online hate. 5, 6, 7, 8. End abuse and online hate. 3, 4.
Awesome. It's great to be a man and support all these beautiful women and everyone else. I mean, not just women are affected by this. But we're supporting everybody all across the nation, all across the world. 50 Shades of Silence is global. We're going worldwide, baby.
1, 2, 3, 4. We won't take it anymore. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
We are 5, 6,
This
7,
is really, really important, and I'm so proud of everybody who came out today to band our voices together to end the silence, to end revenge porn. Just the beginning.
End revenge porn.
End revenge porn.
We are here today not only to march and to seek comfort in our shared experiences, but to demand justice. A justice that need not be deterred by state lines or borders. A justice that serves transgender, cisgender, bisexual, queer, gender nonconforming, intersex, asexual, lesbian, gay, and straight victims equally and fairly. A justice that does not demand victims prove harm and intent, but acknowledges revenge porn to be inherently harmful and dangerous to public safety.
We are not a commodity. You will no longer make money off of our bodies, off of our images, off of our trust on somebody else. That is not your money to make, and I am angry.
And so I've been able to take the pain, the frustration, and the anger and turn it into something powerful and meaningful and something that's going to last forever.
I'm really proud of the women who came to this march against revenge porn. I'm proud because I know if they felt anything like I did, that they probably never imagined when they were in their darkest moments that they would be shining light, and shining light in this way, marching through the streets of Pittsburgh, standing at a podium and speaking their truth for cameras and essentially the world to see. That's a long way to come.
So together we want to ask all of you all to please sign a petition at this moment. If you will all grab your cell phones, we can do this together. You can text the number 555-888 and enter the words, "Use your voice," all one word. Dear Mr. McConnell, Mr. Ryan, and members of the 115th United States Congress, we speak on behalf of more than 10 million Americans who have been victimized by the practice of online sexual abuse and digital domestic violence in the United States. We are survivors of revenge porn, the practice of unlawful dissemination of an intimate image online without the consent, of the individual depicted in the image. We have survived. We are ending the suffering in silence and shame, and we are using our voices to tell our stories.
What would you say would be some first steps that someone should take?
The very first thing that I would hope that all victims would be able to hear from someone is, this is not your fault. This is not your fault. There is help for you, and we're going to get help for you. You can take a breath, don't panic, and give yourself enough space to be upset about it before you immediately try to do something about it. There is nothing to be ashamed of in trusting someone. There's nothing to be ashamed of in taking your clothes off. There's nothing to be ashamed of in thinking that you were part of a confidential, intimate relationship that was worthy of trust and respect.
What do you want to see happen?
I want to see the states prosecute these people. I want to see that us as survivors get justice and they are held accountable for what they've done. And I also believe that it should be upgraded from a misdemeanor to a felony.
I'm gonna set an example, and I'm gonna help other people. I'm not doing this. I'm not going out like this. He wants to do this to me, fine, but I'm gonna fight back.
So parents have to sit down, they have to educate themselves. They have to learn about the different applications. They have to learn the lingos and the acronyms and all of that, and they have to monitor their kids.
Stay strong, and to know your worth, and to know that you're beautiful, and that it is not your fault, and that you don't deserve this, to not blame yourself.
Yeah, I don't think that the person that did this to me thought that I was capable of what I did. You know, starting a nonprofit, getting legislation passed, going on camera and talking about the experience. Yeah, I'm very proud of what I've done, but there's still a lot of work to be done, and I'm up for the challenge.
Crystal ball will tell me where Darius is 5 years from today.
Where am I in terms of my life and my life work? I hope that it will be that I have been to the UN and that I have made this a global issue. I hope that I will have worked with international bodies or countries who want to really take this issue on from a global perspective to create some form of laws or penalties in place to prosecute perpetrators but protect victims. So I hope that piece, I hope that we have the federal legislation in place here in the United States, as well as state laws that are tougher, and that I have been an active voice in creating that. I hope that I have empowered lots of women and children and men who've been impacted by this to reclaim their voices and their dignity and to move past this into better lives. Now, I hope that this film is done and that it has reached people all around the world who will not only be educated by this, but empowered and inspired by it. And I hope that I've reached forgiveness. I hope that my heart has learned to forgive him and forgive anybody else who's ever done this. And I hope that happens too.
Seems the world was built on lies instead of what is true, teaching us to be civilized while they take away our roots. Who's to blame? It's such a shame. And though we always pull through, is it worth the price that we pay to live the life we do? How many more are left to fall? How long will we ignore the ones who call? Will it take a war for us to stand together? How many more are left to bleed? How long will it take for us to see? We will never be free if we can't stand together. How many more? How many more till we stand together? Let's heal the world with our love. What can you contribute if you have nothing good to say? Please don't
about us and night. No one to blame but ourselves. Pointing fingers.